Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's ACY Securities webinar, live forex market review. My name is Duncan Cooper. Before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer, any questions to the chat box or question box. If you're on our YouTube live stream, I can't see the chats, but I've given you a link so you can follow and come into the webinar, or you can just watch, but I can't see the chat, so I can't answer your questions. All right, so just read through the disclaimer before we get into it. Right, let's move along. If you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor at ACY Securities. And I'm a full-time forex trader. Been trading the forex market now for more than 15 years and mentoring clients for more than 10. If you want to contact me, my email is on screen there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. If you want to follow me through the week, then you can get me on our website, acy.com market news tab. You'll get my analysis there. You'll also catch me on our YouTube channel, ACY Securities Australia, and you can connect with me on Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are my handles just there. And in our Telegram channel, I'm providing analysis through the week in there. If you want to get access, just contact nathan.bray. As well, if you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates for MT4 shown just here, then just contact Nathan. I'll put his details in the chat now. So if you've got any questions regarding accounts, openings, downloading a platform, whether it's demo or live, just contact Nathan and he'll be more than happy to help you out. Coming up just in over a week's time, we got the March Inner Circle webinar for March. That's going to be on Monday the 13th. So if you're an account holder, then you may well apply to come along and attend that. Just contact Nathan again. His details in the chat. And you get the opportunity to talk about your trading, talk to me, talk to Nathan. And we sometimes have more than one person talking all at the same time from a client perspective, swapping ideas. So if you want to get access to that, simply contact Nathan. All right, that's Monday the 13th. All right, so let's just have a look at what news is coming out today. Light Euro news at 8 p.m. Generally light news, but you never know, it could move the market. It is a bit of a light news week this week. Next big-ish event is 1 o'clock in the morning Saturday for the US ISM Services PMI. All right, just looking into next week. For the Aussie, we've got the Australian cash rate coming out. I'm guessing we're expecting 25 basis point raise there. Fed Chair Powell testifies next week, 1 in the morning Wednesday. So, looking at items at the moment, we've got the job figures. We should have the job figures. Let's just go a little bit more down. We've got the job figures on Friday. So the market will probably at the moment be looking more to this speech here at the moment, Wednesday. So it's been a relatively quiet week, a little bit of covering. We did sell off heavily down into Friday, and we've kind of been pulling back since. Not changing any trends, but having a pullback. So he's testifying 1 in the morning Wednesday. So the market may not break new ground unless this ISM Service PMI data comes out of a very high print, then that could certainly drive the US dollar up. Okay. All right, let's get into the charts now. As I say, not much has been happening this week. Bit of a retracement. And I might start on the dollar index. To the monthly chart, if you haven't been watching this, then we're above this monthly resistance level now. The month big out, well, I was going to say outside, but it's not outside, but we did make a fresh low and then reversed all the way back up pretty much for the whole month, getting back above these tops. So it's kind of positive. And we really need to break above that weekly top there to really turn it to positive, which is at 105.69. So not yet being able to. We've been trading a little bit inside the range of last week, been down to the lows depths of last week, but we did, when we pulled back, moving to the day chart here, when we pulled back yesterday, we couldn't get down to that monthly support level. All right, if we break it down to the 4-hour chart so we can see last week's trading range, there's last week's low. Up to the high, we had a 79% pullback where support's been coming in. So then, you know, if we're going to get, if we're trading back down inside last week's range, that's where you'd expect price to get support for then a move up, maybe to back up to the high of last week. So we may have had the corrective dip for the week yesterday. We may well find that we now see US dollar strength moving up for the rest of the week back up to the high. S&P 500, it just keeps going down. So nothing really is creating a bid for the stock market there. If 2-year, I'll just go to my, I'll go to trading view here. The 2-year bonds in the US, that's the 10s, but the 2 years. I'm moving up to a new high here for the year, and go to the monthly chart. All right, all this movement up with the interest rates rising in the US, we're obviously coming up to 2007 highs over here. Markets obviously factoring in more interest rate rises from the FOMC meeting minutes that got released last week. All right, so that's yield is rising at the moment on the bonds, both on the 2 and the 10s, which usually gets translated in, when that's rising, it's going to get translated into US dollar strength. All right. All right, so what we're seeing is, in general terms, US dollar strength and stock market weakness at the moment. All right, let's just have a look at the pound. And I put out in the Telegram today and on YouTube that to watch 1961 support, it might be support today if we got down there. Now, I was hoping that I could see price come up to a higher level before it drops, so that, you know, I could sell for the move down to see whether we could break down here, but we didn't get that rally. So now that we've bounced off down there, what can we do? This level now is not really valid because we've broken this swing point low down here. So, you know, when I'm looking at a pair at the start of the day, I'm looking at where I would like to sell. The price doesn't always get to where I would like to sell, or look to start to, you know, formulate a trade entry. But what I'm very aware of, if we break these down, is I don't like to sell straight into support. I want to make sure if I am selling, I can manage my trade before I hit support. So at the moment, we're a little bit range bound here. If we drop down to the monthly chart, we had a very negative month last month. Can we have another negative month down? Maybe we can, but what you don't want to be doing is selling into support. All right. So from a day chart perspective here, there's a couple of support lows. There's actually 3 support lows here that's forming. I mean, we could be getting support here to move all the way back up to retest the highs up here. Hopefully not. Hopefully this is just consolidating because it's waiting for the next bit of news to give US dollar strength, and then, you know, we could break support. But at the moment, there's not enough news coming out for this to break down and want to hold below here. So there's definite support down there. So don't get trapped down here short. Let's just have a look at the 4-hour chart now. You know, we may still hold this 4-hour downtrend and eventually erode through support, but I want to be a seller higher up. All right, where I would logically expect sellers to be, and then, you know, can we move down and then break? All right, I don't want to be selling too close to that support level. And, you know, yesterday twice we tried to move below 120, and we you know, got a movement back up above. We've obviously moved back below 120 today, hit support, we're getting a movement back above. Now, this might be a little bit too close for my liking, down to 1961, this 120 level. You could look for an obvious failure at the 120 level. And if you can sell it real close to 120, price moves down, then you can get your trade to break even and hopefully get a break. But for me, that is a little bit close because buyers are definitely coming in just underneath 120 at the moment. So looking higher up, so I'm readjusting my fib now. 2060 is a 79% level. I would just watch to see, there's an imbalance in here that we formed yesterday that hasn't yet been completely filled. That top of that imbalance is pretty much at the 79% level over here. So if we can get a nice rally, I would be looking up here for possible failure for then another decline down. All right. I might just hold here at 120. You might be able to get a tight trend line break to trade down, but you're a little bit close down, getting close to support here at the moment. All right. So it's nice to be selling high up so you can trade down support. I'll have a look at euro dollar. I might come back to that later. Just look at the pound yen as well. Come back to that later. Just going to click through, see if I see anything happening right now. I think the euro yen. All right. Now, this is an uptrend on the daily. I have some fib ranges drawn in here that I'm monitoring for a potential failure for a move back down, but at the moment, not seeing too much of a failure. Now, on the daily candle at the moment, it is looking quite negative, but it's just intraday trading. And we did have a rejection on Tuesday, but then Wednesday, we traded all the way back up. So the buyers are still keeping this up. So if you move to the 4-hour charts, a little bit negative up there at last month's high, a big outside candle, but that 4-hour trend is still up. Now, I would actually like to be a seller up here, but that day chart trend is still holding very strong. A little bit short of the 79% retracement of this range. It's above the 79% level of this range here. All right. When I'm looking at the 15-minute chart, though, what I'm noticing is that we haven't been able to get down. Whilst we've had a bit of a sharp sell-off down here, there's a bit of imbalance created up there. We're not able to get down to the central pivot point. So this actually might be getting support here for a move back up. Okay. So if you see a setup to buy, if we can get down to maybe retest the central pivot point, if you can then see, a tight trend line break to the upside, today all we may be able to do is simply pull back to the central pivot point for another run back up. Okay. This is still really quite bullish when you're looking at the 50-minute chart here. It's not getting down to central pivot, starting to want to deal back above 145. You might even say, it may even see 145 become support on your 15-minute chart for a trade up. All right. All right, I'm going to head over to the Aussie pairs and go through those. Now, the Aussie yen day chart, first of all, we have a weekly area. I put this in the Telegram today. This is a setup that I'm watching. And I don't know if you can get up there at the moment. It's struggling at the 92 level. It's a little bit different to some of the other yen pairs that are moving up strongly. This is not moving up strongly at all. This is a weekly top here where we've held twice. I'm just looking to see if we can move up to put in another lower top. Watching, move to the 4-hour chart, watching for a move up to the 79% level, 92.59 to the 92.81 weekly resistance level. Can we get up there? Lots of 79% retracement patterns form on the Aussie yen cross. So I'm just monitoring that 79% pattern. Can we come up to the 79% pattern? Okay. All right, I'm just looking at who's on tonight. You're Harry, you've got your hand up. If you've got a question, you can just put it in the chat, or maybe you're just waving at me to say hello. So if you're just waving at me, hello back to you. All right. All good. All right, so just monitoring that. It's a level I'm watching for a setup. Can it get up there again or not? Aussie dollar. Now, a little bit shorter day support down here at 66.88 from the monthly perspective. Had a very negative month down. We're going to have another negative month down. Really top to a lower bottom. Is this going to be a lower top to move down? Very negative month last month, potentially creating this double top here. You know, if this is going to be a double top, we need to break below this weekly support level here at 66.29. Day chart, lower top, lower bottom, another lower top there, lower bottom. Is this just coming up to put in the lower top? It would be great if it came up to a level that you could reference, like this broken support, 68.11, pretty much the 6800 level. That would probably be a nice level to see failure at. But you know, at the moment, if you're looking down at specific price points, we're kind of getting support at the 6700 level. We can't get back up to the 68 level. So it's in a downtrend, but it's just looking for where this might rally back to, and then can you trade it with the high time frame trends down? Okay. All right, so it's a bit choppy consolidatory here on the 4 hour. All it's really done here on the 4 hour, when it's forming some form of an uptrend on the 4 hour here, just come back to fill that drop. Bit of an imbalance here where we drop down, and all we've done this week is managed to just come back up to that area. Can't get up to 68.11 at the moment. Now, we do have that US news coming out tomorrow. We don't know which way price will get driven when that comes out. You know, 68.11 over the next week is a definite level to watch for failure to sell down from if we can get up there. Now, we may not get up there. You can see we've actually been down to 66.94 this week. We have broken last week's and last month's low. So it is getting support just at the 67 area. It would be nice if we could break 67 clearly. You know, what's going to happen over the next week? Can we break 6,700 clearly? Can it become resistance then for you to trade around? At the moment, for me at the moment, it's just this is just in no man's land. You could get cute and try and trade this up, but you know, overall the trend on the day chart is down. And I'm not seeing anything that I like here at the moment. I would much prefer this just to play ball, come up to 68.11, 6800 level, hold and fail. And then that would be the level I'll be watching to trade down. Or I'm not seeing a level here that I like, that I want to look for a failure at to trade down from at the moment. So just watch 68.11. Cover the euro yen. So already reversing at 145. I think that will probably go back up from where it's just come from. It's had a very sharp, swift corrective measure down. Euro dollar. Now this 63, 106.35 level here, which it's been a bit prominent. Let's move to the 1 hour chart here. Early in the week we held. Fell back below, then we moved above, and we have traded below today. It's acting just a little bit of support at the moment. That comes from, it's actually a monthly low, significant monthly low here. So but on the monthly perspective, from last month, we closed below that level, but at the moment, the market's asking itself, do we want to be below this monthly low? Do we want to trade down and keep below? So at the moment, it's just, it's trading at 106.38. So it's kind of just sitting in the region of that low. There's not enough bad news at the moment to give US dollar strength. Not enough bad news for the euro side at the moment. There's no US dollar strength coming in to drive. Now we do have that mediocre news coming out. So let's go back to the news. We have the euro flash estimate, CPI data information here coming out. That might drive the market, but they're not classed as red items, so you can just watch to see how that breaks to the market. So we're just sticking at this low at the moment, and we were up quite positive yesterday, but we couldn't break the high yesterday, so we've traded pretty much all the way back up the range of last week, inside that candle of last week. On the daily, it's still downtrend, lower bottom. Are we coming up just to find where we can put in a lower top? If we break the 4-hour chart down into that weekly range, we've moved back below the 79% level. So what will definitely be a good level to watch, if, like I was just showing it on the dollar index, where we pulled back to the 79% level of last week's range on the dollar index, we will rally back up to the 79% level of the euro dollar, a little bit above it. But, we could revisit 79% level, 106.67. If it starts to hold down once more, that could be the level to watch for a failure for the rest of the week to trade back down. We rushed up. We didn't want to have a week up. Then we started, you can see here, started to hold at the 79% level on those 2 4-hour candles, and we've been starting to drift down. So, moving down to the 15-minute. 106.67, if we did get some positive jump up, watch up there for failure. At the moment, as it's waiting for the news to come out from the euro, it is starting to move down. So we're starting to hold at the central pivot point. So maybe we're failing that central pivot point there now for the day to move down. I would wait till past that news item coming out before I would look to trade. But over the next 24 hours, if we trade down today, 106.35, look for it to regain its resistance and be a level to trade down from. Okay. I mean, right now, if you thought 106.35 is going to be broken now, you could be trading here with a 100 pip stop, putting your stop at 107.35. We couldn't get up to 107.100 yesterday on the very strong move up, couldn't get to 107.100. So if you're looking for a positional play at the moment, trading now, stop 100 pips above. That gets you above 107.100, which we can't get to this week. And last week, if I squash this in, we pretty much 107.100 over here. We really struggled at 107.100 last week. Just got above it a fraction over here. All right. So that being said, getting your stop above 107, so 107.35, if you were selling right now, we would have to break clearly above 107.100 for you to be wrong in the long term if you want to take a positional play. All right, so it's heading down for the day. Doesn't look like maybe long term it can hold there at 106.35. Pound yen. Been monitoring this range where we're moving up to, and couldn't quite get to the 79% level. Still holding to a daily chart uptrend though. What I am seeing today is this 4-hour downtrend. We can't get back up to 164.03, which is the level of resistance that we moved above, broken back below. Just move this to a 15-minute chart. So there's the 4-hour range. We're just been rallying back up. All right, just trying to get my dog to shut up. And we've been running back up. Now, 62% level, which we couldn't get to, is at 163.95. That resistance is at 164.03. You got the 164 level there. That would be a good level to watch. I know we've already kind of failed there, a little short of, but if we did pop back up today, that level would be a good level to watch for a failure point. All right. May have already failed, and we may already be moving down. You can see that it's moving down to a lower bottom here on the 15-minute chart. Broken 50-minute support here could be starting to be resistance there for then another movement down. All right, but I would much prefer this. If I was going to trade, I'd like to trade a failure up here because this is lower down the range. That would be your optimal level, reversal level to look for on that pair at the moment. Potentially, let's just drop back to the daily now. All right, I'm going to have to take my fib off. That movement that we've had up there to the 79% level just short. This could be the trend down. This could be all corrective. and then we're looking for, failing up here at 79% level for a move back down the range. Okay, very negative rejection there on Tuesday. It's really just come up to fill any imbalance that was inside that candle there on a lower time frame, and then it just didn't like it at all. So are we topping out there for a move down? So that's 164.03, which is a daily support level there. We move back below it, so now it becomes resistance. Watch that area on the 15-minute chart. And Edwin, I can see on you there. Have you been looking at the pound yen recently, or are you just waiting for a good setup that you like the look of? It's very different to the euro yen at the moment, isn't it, pound yen? Because this drop down here was very similar to the euro yen drop down, which was over here. But then we have obviously moved to a new high on the euro yen, where on the pound yen, nowhere near getting back up the range. So this is way weaker. All right, so you can monitor that level up there. If you like that pair to trade, pound dollar, we've already covered it. So obviously the sellers are watching that 120 level. You just need to decide, do you want to trade at 120 or close to? For a move down to test support, can we break support? I'd much prefer to be a seller higher up. So sometimes the market doesn't give me what I want. I can be patient. All right, so New Zealand yen, which has been rather horrible for quite a while, but it has popped up to the area that I was watching. It is actually fractionally above my weekly top. Just want to put a fib across this whole range. So, all these yen pairs. So if I just go back to, I just showed you on the pound yen, but on the euro yen, we go to the day chart. This big drop down here is very similar to what I was just showing on the euro, on the pound yen. Is this all corrective? Failing up here at 79% level longer term. It's got to show that failure yet for a move down. I showed the same kind of structure there on the pound yen. On the New Zealand yen, is it the same thing? We've had this very large drop down. Is this corrective before we drop down once more? All right, now at the moment, I'm just monitoring what price is doing. We did obviously snap above that weekly top here of 84.91. That's a weekly top. And we closed above, but today we're a lot weaker. Now, if we can close below 84.91 today, so we move it down to the 4-hour chart. If we can close below 84, if we just move down through here today, then we would be watching on a rally for that to be resistance, for then a move down. If the market can play nicely. Now, of course, you may have the opposite opinion of the New Zealand yen. You think it's going much higher. You think it's going much higher at the moment. If we get back down to the 4-hour chart, we are sitting on top of that weekly top at the moment. So this could actually be as we drop down to the 15-minute chart here, this could be offering intraday support now for a much higher move up. So you need to make a decision as you're looking at price action, which way do you think the longer term move is going to be? And then you try to find a setup that you want to trade. Now, we could simply get support here at 84.91 and just trade up, all next week. It all depends what your viewpoint is. I'm tending to favor the downside because I think the New Zealand dollar is going to go much slower. So we're going to see a selling on the New Zealand side. So I much favor maybe a failure 84.91 to move down, but you may have a different opinion. You might think that the New Zealand yen is going to have long-term support and wants to move higher. back all the way up to, there is this imbalance that could get filled. Imbalances don't have to get filled, but there's this imbalance here. So often they are getting filled. And we haven't filled it yet. So this, could be searching to fill that whole imbalance. So, if we do start to, on the day chart, if I see a number of candles coming up, all right, we get 1 or 2 more days up, then I will change my mind and look for this to be support for a move higher. But simply one day above and then closing back below, to me, then would be very negative. It really needs to break above and continue to move up and then pull back to be support. All right, so you could look at intraday support to buy if you think it's going higher, but you need to make your decision. Which way are you trading the New Zealand yen at the moment? All right, so I'm still looking at that as a potential level for failure. If I get a nice close below that, that will certainly start to heighten my approach to look at an intraday entry at some point. All right, New Zealand dollar. Now, up here, we obviously failed last month, 65.13 weekly resistance. There's actually a monthly resistance level up there too, but that line will suffice just to explain what's going on. Potential double top up here, and that double top price rejection. We have broken the mid low. It's down at 58.68. So that's what I call the high level look of where price might be moving to. Shorter term, it's kind of false broke this area at the moment. It has moved back up to 62.70 resistance. Slav, we discussed that last night. Don't know whether you sold it up there, but clearly it was resistance when we were talking last night. Clearly failed there. So it's a bit awkward. I mean, if you sold it up there last night at 62.70. All right, so you got in 18 pips short of the top. Good, well done. If you're not in, it's now where it's sitting right now is a little bit difficult because you're kind of above support and below resistance. It's fine if you were watching last night and you sold up here. Now you're just waiting to see if support can break. All right, so this isn't an overall downtrend. We're just waiting to see if we can move back below support and then want to hold below support. All right. And I was actually watching in here yesterday to see if this would fail in here between weekly and monthly resistance when we were below, but price just continued straight up. So I didn't actually get to trade because it didn't want to stop. And it's moved up today resistance. It just went above last week's high. So we've had just a week up, and then we failed at last week's high. And Slavy saying it was a strange pump up. Well, I think the euro dollar was showing a little bit of strength. And then this, if you look at the psychological perspective here is that everybody's been selling down here, wanting this to break. And they, those that were short would want this area now to be resistance. And when they started to see it pop above, people would have started to cover their shorts, and that creates buying pressure. So that's why we had that, quite, if we move it down to the 50-minute chart, that's why then we had this quite aggressive move up. But it just moved up to the next level of resistance, the next logical level, and it's been held there. So, and it started to form a false break. And what I can see here, just from a learning perspective, we come up, all right, we sell off, we rally back up, sell off. So there's a 79% level, drop, rally to 79, and all these candles here then are wanting to see that top there. We come up to last week's high, all right, just trade a pip above. We move above, which is obviously a false move above into day resistance. Then it drops. All this move up here, my dog will be quiet. There was an imbalance in there. Can't quite get it to draw it perfectly. There we go. All right, so we fall down back below last week's high, creates an imbalance. We come up back up to the 79% level to test last week's high and fill the imbalance. See that candle there? Just fills the imbalance. It's like perfection. And then we've been moving down. At the moment, we're starting to maybe hold underneath the central pivot point. So, I mean, again, like I was saying on the euro dollar, it wouldn't be the worst strategy if we have failed here. And this could be the month high. All right, we could trade down all month from there because logically on the day chart, this is a lower top to a lower bottom. This is rallying. We could break below support now and trade down all month. Just continue the formation of lower tops and bottoms. So it wouldn't be the worst strategy in the world if you want to take a position. Is, we're trading at 62.21, selling right now. Stop 100 pips above. That gets you at 63.20. We could only get up to just get above 62.70. So that would put you stop 50 pips above this high. And this could be the final high, for the week, could be the final high for the month. So you have to work out how you want to trade. But, when you're looking at what you want to do, you need to look at where you think price is failing at. This could be a definite failure here, and we're not going to move back above that level. So if this, I'm just hypothesizing, but, this isn't where I would just click in and sell. But, if this could rally back up a bit, let's draw a fib across that high to low. If we could get back up to a 62 level or a 79% level, then using a 100 pip stop, being able to sell closer to this high point, getting your stop above that area so that if price wants to come up and retest this area, it doesn't stop you out. Longer term trend is down. That's a very simple way of trying to create a positional play for a long-term move down. Now, of course, the best scenario would be that you could go back yesterday, watching a fair up here at 62.70. Slav, he's telling me he got short 18 pips from the high. So somewhere in through here, he's taken the trade and should be risk-free by now. Happy days. You just wait and see if support can break. All right, now, looking for the week ahead, it would be great if we could move below here and then look for 61.91 next week to be resistance if we can get another movement back down. All right. At the moment, it's not in the most perfect level. You could most definitely, they'll be watching a further retest and failure at 62.70. Okay. And if it wants to just pop up a little bit higher, let's just get rid of that fib. The 6,300 level, draw a fib in here. If this wanted to, have a perfect like 62% retracement, that's at 62.90. If it just popped fractionally above there, that would be the 6,300 level. All right, so price could definitely do that if it wants to pop up on any news item. All right, so watching for a pop up into 62.90, 63, and then a movement back below 62.70. That's definitely a possibility when the US ISM services data comes out tomorrow. All right, I'm just looking at my chart on my other screen. So look at the euro dollar. All right, euro dollar is looking relatively negative, and because I was looking at my euro yen on my other screen, it hasn't got down to the central pivot point yet. That's definitely a level worth watching for support today. If you can see a setup, I want to see price stop there, trend line break to the upside at that central pivot point. Slightly telling me that the markets are overall negative. Well, they are, except, last 36 hours we've been kind of moving up. So, today for sure we're seeing a little bit of negativity, but yesterday, we were looking quite bullish, weren't we? So I think that movement up, as I was saying at the start of the webinar, we had a 79% to the 4-hour chart, 79% pullback within the weekly range of the dollar index. and found support. So that was that pullback yesterday. So maybe we have found support to move up. There's your dollar index at the moment, showing that it wants to continue its move up. All right, so we covered the New Zealand dollar. Yeah, the question would be, if you're not sure at the moment for maybe another month down, can it have another rally back up at or close to that 62.70 level, or up to last week's high? 62.61, doing a little bit more work. There was lots of 4-hour tops formed here. Last Thursday, Friday, where we were holding. That 62.51 area is, well, I need to draw my fib from here, sorry. So the 62% level overlaps perfectly with that 4-hour resistance area from last week. All right, and there's just a little bit of an imbalance in here too. So if this wants to pop up, this would be a very obvious level to watch, 62.50. All right, it's the midpoint between obviously 62 and 63. All right, so that's a definite rally area you could watch. Will it rally up there? You just have to watch. All right, dollar CAD. This is what I was discussing on Tuesday. And that was Monday's candle here, but we never were able to pull back to daily support. I had a bit of a reversal on this day chart. Dollar CAD moving up to 136.64 monthly resistance, fraction short at the moment. Positive on the day at the moment. So in general terms, I'm looking at this to maybe move through this area. And if it's going to continue at US dollar strength, it's going to move through this area over time. This 4-hour chart's not telling me anything really, is it? It's very choppy here. It's waiting for the next data here. You know, price will often come up to a level, just pull back and just go sideways. It's waiting for the next data. You know, the overall trend there is quite clearly up. There's not enough buying pressure, not enough US dollar strong news at the moment just to push it through that area. All right. So there is the possibility that we could break out. If we break above this area here, we're going up to the next high point. But we could definitely fail here as well. All right. We'll just want to have a look at a MACD on the dollar CAD. So that's that high area there. MACD is still very positive on the day chart. Not seeing any divergence when we came up to that top there on the 4-hour. So I'm not really seeing anything. I'm using an indicator to tell me, are we going to hold here and move down? Not really seeing any divergence there. So I would be still, you know, if we can have a dip, I would still be looking for this pullback. So it's 35.20 area, that whole top there, to move that way, and then can we trade through? Now there's always over the next week, if we continue to hit this area and we continually hold, if we hit the area and then on the 4-hour chart, so we hit the area there, came down, but then we wanted to move back up. You really need to see a very decisive break of a 4-hour area of support. You do have an area of support here, but this is just consolidatory at the moment. You really need to see a clear breakdown. You want to see a rally up to like a 79% level. Can you see it turn over? And does it look nice and clean? Because this is very sideways here. So want to see that, then I would look at, I can clearly see when we moved above here, moved above 135.20, see how we sat on top? That next bottom became higher there. Even when we sold off, this bottom came in ahead of that level. All right, so there's clear support here. So price dropping back down there, you know, doesn't necessarily have to get to support. You can see all these lows here, that area there where all those lows are. A triple bottom, higher bottom, another higher bottom. So, and there's that top there as well. So let's just reference that top in. All right, sorry, I just have to go off mic because I was going to sneeze. All right, so that area there is at 135.36. So 135.36 down 135.20 area. You know, if we had a news item come out and we had a quick swift drop, I would certainly watch that area if you'd like to trade the dollar Canadian for support. For then a move back up to challenge the high. Okay. I think long term it's in an uptrend. It's just finding a nice area to be a buyer at for the next, you know, long term move up. All right. Dollar yen. Now, been playing very nicely with dollar yen. Earlier in the week, I did some analysis on my Tuesday video and said I was watching 135.16 for this to move down to, for support to move up. And on Tuesday webinar, I was showing you this fib drawn from last week's low to the high, because that high was already there. And I said, watch the 62 level, watch that support level, watch all these highs. So that was the area to watch for support. So you get a clear move above. So we had some 4-hour tops here, 1 and 2 last week, where we couldn't move above this major monthly resistance level, broke higher, and then that area becomes support for a move down, support, and a quick rejection back up. All right. Going out, obviously we can't go back in time to that level. So at the moment, I'll keep it on the 4-hour chart. What could happen here? This is just, there's a little high area here. I'm looking at the 4-hour chart to be backed up now. Even though we haven't broken above that top, there's a little area there that was a lower top down. Then we've moved above that top there. So now I would be drawing a fib across that range. And this could be like a left shoulder head, inverted head and shoulder pattern. There's 2 lows here. So if I just reference the area, then it's just fraction below at the 62 level, fraction below the 62 level there. That area just there. Whether or not we can get down to that area, I don't know. But that down into that area, I would expect support. See how we moved up here? And then it was support. That support was directly opposite your left shoulder here. All right, then we've moved up above this 4-hour top area there. Now, whether or not we can get down there, but that's at 135.87. Central pivots here at 135.96. That would be a great area to watch for price to move down to, find support, and then turn back around to continue, you know, a 4-hour continuation pattern moving up if we can pull back. All right. So dollar yen is very strong at the moment, because that monthly area that I was just discussing is a major monthly top that we've moved above from way back in time. And, you know, it becoming support this week just proves that the dollar is strong and the dollar yen wants to move up long term. All right. So then you're looking to buy a dip. So that would be a great area to watch for a dip if we can move back down into that area. All right. All right. Last one, gold. Getting support on weekly support here. Now, what I can see, so we have had a bounce on weekly support. We move to the weekly chart here. That's that top area here. It's not able to change the day chart trend. And I got the 4-hour chart. There's last week's high. just draw a rate of fib across last week's range down to the current low. We've moved up to 79% level. Let's just get rid of that fib. All right, so that's what it looks like on the day chart. That's last week's high down to the current low. We've moved up to 79% level. We couldn't get above the daily high. If we do break above that daily high, then trend's turning up. We'll have a weekly uptrend, a daily uptrend. We know the monthly trend's down from what I showed you last Tuesday. So is this a bounce on weekly support just to enable a rally for the sellers to come in? So, you know, back up to 79% level, 1838. You know, stop just above the high. That would be a good selling level to see if you can trade back down to break support. All right, you know, looking to sell the rally within the range of the week. Breaking above last week's high isn't good for gold. If you're a seller, it's not good for you. All right, so as long as that structure holds, that fail at 79% level holds at the moment, we could trade back down to weekly support. Can we break below it? All right. That's what's happening in gold at the moment. So you just need to decide, do you want to be trying to sell at 79% level, stop above the high or the move down? Or you could be waiting for a break above the high and then looking for an opportunity to trade upwards. But structure is not changing. That's just a 79% rally at the moment. Now what we might see, yes, we're failing potentially at the 79% level there. Over the next week, before I can review this once more, you know, we've obviously traded up here. We may come down for another test and hold. You know, if we come down for a second test and hold, then you're looking in that area for a buy. All right. So at the moment, the structure is just holding to the downtrend, but if that can't break through, you're looking then at weekly support for a buy to move back up. All right. So, you know, it's weekly support's at 1807, pretty much the 1800 level. Is that going to be support for a move higher, or we just simply wait for a break? Of course, last year, the whole movement down, let me just squash this in, this whole kind of long-term move down here was in line with the US dollar getting stronger, pairs to the US dollar moving down. The US dollar pairs, the pairs to the US dollar are going to move down this month. Let's say they do, then, you know, gold may well follow that natural correlation and break weekly supports. So this is stopping at an obvious level where we were consolidating here, accumulating orders to move up and through. So we're having a natural pause where all that happens. That was happening just underneath resistance to break out. So this is having a pause at now potential support, but it's not changing the overall trend there on the day chart. All right, so you can work out whether you want to try and sell at 79% level there if you can get a retest. Now, this is just mirrored what the dollar index has been doing. Dollar index pulled back to 79% of its weekly range before then turning around. This is rallied back up to the 79% level before turning potentially back down. Exactly the same on the euro dollar. Back up to its 79% level of last week's range before potentially moving down. All right, any questions? So we're a little bit range bound at the moment. We haven't been able to follow through from, what was Friday's news last week? Let's just go back last week. Last Friday's news, which was the US core PC price index, which obviously positive. So that's an inflationary measure, meaning that inflation is still there, still going up in the US. That's why we had a very nice sell-off on Friday, but we haven't been able to really follow through below Friday's low. And well, we've obviously traced back up inside last week's range. So we haven't been able to follow through on the back of that item at the moment because there hasn't been a great deal of US dollar news coming out, but we do have tomorrow. Where are we? The US ISM Services PMI data. So expecting a slight contraction on the number. but that number there, as long as it's above 50, that's classed as not contracting. If we're moving below 50, that's contraction. If we're moving above, that's growth. So, you know, but having a better figure than the month before would obviously show more uncontraction. What's the correct word when we're not contracting? Growing. You know, that would show more growth in that data. So market will be looking to that figure tomorrow for sure. And Slavy asking me, have I closed any of my shorts? No, I haven't closed any of my shorts. I'm still short. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I have a very nice short position on the pound from higher up. Pound, I'm short the pound. We'll look at the pound moving down from 120 now. I'm short the pound from 122.80. I'm short from up here. So that's why I'm wanting support to break. So I'm holding a long-term position there for a move down. I've got a long-term position on the New Zealand dollar as well. So that moving back above support yesterday didn't excite me too much one bit. I am short the Aussie dollar as well from higher up. So I'm just, you know, we obviously had a very negative month last month. I'm hoping that we'll just follow suit this month, have another negative month down this month. So I haven't closed my positions out. I'm just trying to trade down for another month. But if I start to see some positivity, I'm just going to have to close them out with whatever profit I've got. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's always a dilemma when you see price moving back up. Do you close them out or do you hold? It's, you know, it's always a dilemma. There's always the possibility that on my pound trade here at the moment that support holds as support and comes up. And obviously I've got nice profits at the moment. I had better profits on Friday, but I'm trying to hold my position for a breakdown below here. On this pound dollar with this double top, you know, I'm trying to hold my position for a move down here. Like I teach the double top here, trying to get in at the 79% retracement level, approximately. I got in fractionally below. So I'm short at 122.80 from memory. Hoping that we'll break down through here and we're going to head down towards here. You know, if I want to try to trade the double top pattern, I have to hold my position, don't I? Getting out and then seeing it trade all the way down. You know, I have to be in. So yeah, I'm weathering this choppiness here at the moment. Same with the New Zealand dollar. I'm in from higher up, and same kind of double top position. I'm hoping this isn't a complete false break. Really, if this starts to move, gets above 63, I'm probably going to have to close it. As long as, you know, we can hold at that 62.70 level, like we've been discussing today, where it failed yesterday, and starts to move down. You know, I'm thinking this is failing up here for a move down here, long term. So I have to, you know, if I want to trade that long-term move, I have to hold my position. I know you're saying you're not tempted to close and then open it back again once price is corrected. Well, what happens? Well, the problem is with that, it's like yesterday. And there's not a perfect way. You know, yesterday I was looking at maybe this level to hold for that move down long term. So then what do? You know, if I've jumped out and then that held there and went down, I have no position. So I'm just trying to hold my position at the moment. So yeah, that move up there didn't make me happy one bit. And if really, I think if we trade above that high there, I'm gonna have to close my position down with less profit. But and Edwin, you're saying you short the pound from 120 level. However, I made a mistake with the take profit, putting it 1206. Well, those things can happen if you're rushing, but there we go. So yeah, trying to hold a position when obviously the market is zigzagging can be difficult, but not all my positions I'm holding. Some I have some shorter term positions where I'm in and then I'm out. But on the pairs at the moment where we've been discussing, for example, let's go back to the pound dollar, because I don't know if we can trade down to last year's low. But if we can, if you wanted to trade down to last year's low, there's last year's range where I've discussed this countless times, so this is not new. 62% level, double top, potentially fading here. If this was a 4-hour chart, you'd think, okay, we've rallied back up to the 62% level. Are we going to trade back down to test support? It doesn't take that long for a 4-hour chart pattern to run out. Whereas this is more of a yearly pattern, it's going to take some time to run out, and there's going to be rallies and dips and rallies for many weeks before maybe we can break down. But if you want to trade that long-term move, you have to hold your position. Now, if we can break 1841, my pound dollar position will be happy days after that. I can lock some profit in and then see whether we can start to move down. And would this start to let go and trade down to 103? We would never have thought that we would get down to 103 last year. Now, I don't know whether we can get down to 103 this year, but we would never have thought we could get down there last year. So whilst it seems very stretched to get down there this year, maybe we could break 103 and be down to like 93. I don't know. You never know what the market will present. Structurally here, though, this does look like we're failing here, and we could get a long-term move down. So that's what I'm trying to hold for, but it's not always easy. At the moment, a very contentious level down here at the 1961 level. Can it break? Sellers seemingly coming in above 121. If this moves back up to tries to start to move above 121, I'll probably have to get out and just take some profit. Hopefully today we break below 1961. It's doing its second test. He did offer that, obviously sell there at 120, but you can see it's starting to pop back up. So if you did sell at 120, you want to be at break even now. Fingers crossed that this can break down, because it may well just come straight back up. That's why, I'm a lot happier when I can clearly see support. I'm a lot happier to be selling higher up. It keeps going down, keeps bouncing back up. All right, everybody. So that should suffice for this week. Hopefully you've got some information that you can work with. Slavy is saying, looks like it's determined to break through. Well, it's still trading above at the moment. I know it keeps testing it. Hopefully it can break. Just need some pound bad news, some US dollar good news. All right, but in the meantime, we don't quite have that. So hopefully it can break, and then it will be happy days for any of us that have sold a little bit higher up. All right. Heads up for next week. We've got market analysis on Tuesday. On the education front, we're going to talk about trading range using Fibonacci. I've done that one before, but that's a pattern well worth having in your arsenal of trades. All right, that's what's coming up next Wednesday. All right, so if you have the time, look forward to seeing you then. If not, you can obviously catch a recording. Other than that, have a great end of the week. Enjoy your weekend, and try not to sell them support if you can help it. That pound does look like it's going down, but don't get too close to that support level. Okay. All right. Have a great weekend. Thanks very much for hanging out with me. Look forward to seeing you next time.